Hi there, and welcome back to Grammar with Kelsey. Today we're taking a look at relative clauses. Woo! Let's get started. So, first things first, what on earth is a relative clause? Let's think back. Do you remember these adverb clauses? We talked about them earlier this semester. So, a verb is our action, right? An adverb is a word that modifies or changes a verb, right? So an adverb clause is a clause that gives us extra information about the action. It modifies the verb, right? It tells us when, where, or why something happened. We focused mostly on when. Relative clauses are similar, but instead of talking about the action, they talk about the noun, the subject or the object. So who, or what, or where. Right? So they give us more information about the nouns in your sentence. Let's take a look. So our adverb clause, Frank ran the race after he had bought the right shoes. So here's our adverb clause, after he had bought the right shoes. And it's introduced by the word adverb after. Okay? Tells us when this action happened. Relative clauses, those are the shoes that belong to Frank, right? So this is extra information telling us about the shoes, right? What shoes are they? Oh, the ones that belong to Frank. That introduces our clause, and that is what we call a relative pronoun. Okay. So you might remember relative pronouns. Pronouns are words that we use to replace nouns like he, she, it, they, we, right? Relative pronouns are a special kind of pronoun that we use to introduce relative clauses, what we're talking about today. Okay. So the first set is people. We use who, whom, that, and whose to introduce relative clauses about people. Who is the subject, whom is the object. Now, not many people use whom anymore. You might see it in academic writing, or if someone thinks they're really smart or academic, they might use whom in speech, but most people will use who for both object and subject when speaking. And then whose is special because whose is possessive, right? It's his, it's hers, theirs, ours, right? So whose bike is that, right? Who owns the bike? That is Mark's bike, right? It's his. Okay. For animals and objects, we use that and which. We use that for information that is necessary to a sentence, and which for information that is extra. And I'll give you more examples of that later. Okay. Just like adverb clauses, relative clauses are dependent. That means that they cannot be alone. They must be attached to an independent clause. So the woman is my sister who is standing over there does not work. Who is standing over there is not a complete sentence, right? If this were a question, it'd be a complete question. But as a sentence, who is standing over there? Nope. The woman who is standing over there is my sister. So when we put it with this independent clause, right, then it's okay. The woman who is standing over there is my sister. It gives us more information about this noun, the woman. Okay. Let's try it on a sentence. The boy is tired. The boy is carrying a backpack. Right? If you read a whole book like this, it'd get really boring really fast. The boy is tired. The boy is carrying a backpack. The boy walks to school. The boy meets his friend, right? How do we make our sentences more complex and more interesting? So we add relative clauses. The first thing we need to do is find the repeated noun. Nouns are people, places, things. So what are the nouns in this sentence? These sentences. The boy, and a backpack. And we're going to include the article as part of the noun phrase. Okay. Now, which of these do we see twice or more than once? The boy, right? So now we need to decide which of these sentences do we think is most important. This is your choice. Okay. The one you feel is the most important will be the main clause. The one you feel is less important will be the relative clause. So I've decided the boy is tired is more important. So I'm going to make this our relative clause. And now we're going to replace this noun phrase with a relative pronoun. So the boy, is he people, animal, object? Right, he's going to be a person, so we're going to use who, whom, that, or whose. Now, is this in the subject position or the object position? This is the subject, right? This is the object. So we can't use whom. And is it the his is carrying a backpack? Hers carrying a backpack? Right? This is not possessive. So we can't use whose. So it must be who or that. And both of these are okay. Right. I'm going to use who. The boy is tired, who is carrying a backpack. We're still not finished. We can't just delete this period. Okay. We're actually going to put this who is carrying a backpack behind the word it modifies. So the boy who is carrying a backpack is tired. Right. There are many boys around, but it's the one who is carrying the backpack that is tired. Right. Okay. Rule number 2. The relative clause comes after the noun it modifies. It's why we couldn't just leave it, the boy is tired, who is carrying a backpack. It has to come after the boy. Right? So the man has my book, whom I met earlier. Whom. Okay. So whom I met earlier, this is fine. But right now, it's talking about book, right? Can you meet a book? No, the book is a thing, right? And actually, this whom tells us it must be a person, right? So the man whom I met earlier has my book. Right? Now, this is an example of whom because I met him, I being the subject, he being the object in this clause, so it's whom. Now, the man who I met earlier has my book is also okay in speech. Rule number 3, it can modify either the subject or the object of a sentence. The woman who is standing over there is my sister. I am here to meet my sister who is standing over there, right? So again, it needs to come after the thing it modifies, right? But it can modify the woman, who is the subject, or the sister, who is the object. Just make sure you put it after the one you're talking about. So let's give it a try. I saw the book. The boy had the book. So the first thing we want to do, right, decide which of these we think is the most important. I saw the book or the boy had the book. And then what nouns do we see in the sentence? We see I, book, boy, book. Right. I've decided I saw the book is more important. So I'm going to make this phrase or this sentence the relative clause. And the repeated word is the book, right? So I'm going to replace this, the book, with a relative pronoun. Is it a person, animal, or object? It is an object. Right? I'm going to replace it with that. Okay. And now we need to combine the sentences, but remember, our relative pronoun always comes at the beginning of the relative clause. So I saw the book, the boy had that does not work. You have to move this to the beginning of the clause. Right? I saw the book that the boy had. Right? Moves to the front. This will always happen when you're describing an object, right? Because the object always comes at the end of the sentence. You will always need to move your relative pronoun to the beginning of the clause when you're modifying an object. Okay. Number 4. We use this in 2 different ways. The first way is to identify a generic noun, so something that is too open, too big, not specific. So the boy is my friend, right? Who is the boy? Right? There are many boys. Okay? Which one are we talking about? The boy who lives down the street is my friend. Right? We need this information to know what boy we're talking about. Our office that has 2 lunchrooms is located in Cincinnati. Our office is located in Cincinnati. Okay. This sounds like there is one office, right? And that office is in Cincinnati. Our office that has 2 lunchrooms is located in Cincinnati. This actually makes it sound like we have more than one office, right? Maybe there's an office in New York. Maybe there's an office in Chicago, LA, right? But the one that has 2 lunchrooms is located in Cincinnati, right? So there are many boys. There are many offices. These restrict, it tells us which one we're talking about, okay? And they change the sentence when they're in there. If we delete that, the sentence means something else. The second type is just extra information. And if it's extra information, we put commas on both sides. So Marcus, who lives down the street, is my best friend. Marcus is my best friend. This is already specific. We know who Marcus is, right? This just gives us more information about Marcus. Our office, which has 2 lunchrooms, is located in Cincinnati. So here, we are talking about one office. We only have one office. So it's already specific, right? This is just extra information. So this is the difference between that and which. When we're talking about objects, we use that for general, important information, right? Restricting. Okay. And we use which for extra information, unnecessary. Okay. So let's give it a try. Harry Potter was written by J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter is my favorite book series, right? So first I need to decide which of these sentences do I think is most important. Harry Potter was written by J.K. Rowling, or Harry Potter is my favorite book series. Okay. I've decided that this one is going to be the most important. This is going to be my main clause and this my relative clause. So Harry Potter is a repeated noun. Harry Potter, Harry Potter. And we're going to replace it with a relative pronoun. Harry Potter, person, animal, or object. Now here we're not talking about the character Harry Potter. We're talking, which would be one of these. We're talking about the books. So that's going to be an object, that or which. Right? Now, Harry Potter, is it specific or general? Harry Potter is pretty specific. It's not just the book series, it's this book series. When I say Harry Potter, you know exactly what book series I'm talking about. So it's going to be specific, which means the relative clause will just add extra information. We're going to use which. Okay. Now we need to combine these sentences. So this, our relative clause, needs to come after the noun it modifies. Right. Harry Potter, which was written by J.K. Rowling, is my favorite book series. And note that we have these commas on either side. And often when we have this kind of relative clause that is extra information, when we speak, we take it down a notch. So Harry Potter, which was written by J.K. Rowling, is my favorite book series. Right? So you notice the difference in tone. Okay. Last but not least, the verb in the relative clause must match the noun it's modifying. Okay. The woman who are standing over there is my sister. So here, woman singular, are plural, is singular, right? So make sure all of these match. The woman who is standing over there is my sister. Okay? All right, so that's all for today. I hope you had fun or learned a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to include them in the homework. That's it. Bye.